presenting exclusively Soham Parekh on the Indian Startup Desktop.
That there is an engineer who has been cheating companies.
Soham is just another example of why you should build an in person culture and not a remote first company.
Soham as a service.
Like imagine a same employee working at OpenAI and Cloud.
Welcome to this week's episode.
Hi guys, how is everyone doing?
Hello.
Let's start off with our usual funny memes from this week. Who killed a cat? You may have new messages. This is from Schrodinger's message. Nice. I'm sure Saksham didn't get this.
Talking
Oh my
about
God.
cats, bro. I've been obsessed with this new AI cat universe called the Papi Bilota universe on Instagram. I don't know if you guys have come
Yeah.
across, but I think it's the best thing to come out this year. I'm obsessed.
Moving on to trust issues. Why are vending machines so rare in India? I don't know, you tell me. Hanging out with models. We are all hanging out with models these days. He only hangs out with models now. Means a very different thing in SF. Alright, let's move on to the story of the week. Soham Bewafa. Let's see where it all started. So Suhail is the one who actually broke the news, but this is what he tweeted. There's a guy named Soham Parekh in India who works in 3 to 4 startups at the same time. He's been preying on YC companies and more. Beware. I fired this guy in his first week and told him to stop lying slash scamming people. He hasn't stopped a year later. No more excuses. Damn! Saksham, what was your initial reaction to the story?
3 words. Why not me? I would I would have loved to maybe do a job, multiple jobs for a short period of time, get some quick cash in.
Yeah.
And then even if this happens, I'm sure I'm still qualified enough to be able to find myself a new job, right? So why not me?
That too in US dollars and an good amount of ESOP pool as well from YC backed companies. Not a bad deal.
The only problem, Pawan, is if you switch every year, I don't know where those ESOPs are going, bro.
All like 25% of given ESOPs route. Still better bet, I would feel.
Makes sense.
But what is your point on this, right? I think the larger point that a lot of people are pointing out is that like CEOs can, obviously run multiple companies. They can be investors in multiple boards of companies. But when employees themselves do it, it's called a scam. Like, what is your thought on this particular topic, guys?
I feel it's also more about transparency, right? I think some of these founders do it. One, they do it openly, they do it transparently, and second, you are also allowed to do it legally, right? Like if you open your consultancy firm, sign with multiple people, do it as a consultant. There are right ways to do this. There's a reason why a lot of people do it. There are these legal loopholes that exist, so you don't really have to go out of your way, do this in a shady manner, and then when you're caught, you obviously get behind the same language of, oh, this was needed financially, I was in an economic crisis, etc., etc. I just don't think it is true, or it makes a lot of sense.
Pavan, before you jump in, this is not the actual Soham Parekh. This is just some guy trying to jump on the bandwagon. But yeah, Pavan, go ahead, please.
I feel the rules of what kind of jobs that are available in market and what is the meaning of a right job needs to be rewritten. It's damn old now. I completely agree with Saksham that there needs to be transparency, but from employer perspective also, it's high time that we revalidate what kind of skills we want to have on board, and if we have a right match, the founder and the employee have a right match, and if this is placed transparently, and if it works for both of them, why not do it?
I
Yeah,
love this Soham as a service.
yeah, yeah. Look, I'm usually always anti-establishment, but at least for this particular topic, I don't know how I feel about it. Right? I do agree on the bit about transparency, but see, the rules of the game have been always written by the big and the mighty. In this case, it is the employers, right? And look, it's very easy for an employer who has multiple companies to be transparent. But if an employee tries to be transparent, the probability of him continuing the job will be minimal. So I also understand why he wasn't transparent, but I think the larger point around ethics kind of plays a larger picture over here, right? What do you guys think?
the issue of conflict of interest always exists. Like if you're working with two companies who are into similar space and competing with each other, that becomes a large
Yeah.
issue. Like imagine a same employee working at OpenAI and Cloud who are competitors in each other and in some ways are also dealing with a lot of sensitive data and so on and so forth. But if you are an engineer which is working like in non-complementing industries, contributing to both and also not having performance related issue, dude, then you're working hard, you're slogging your ass off to do something meaningful by contributing more number of hours, and I don't think so that should
Pavan,
be restricted.
Pavan, I heard Mark Zuckerberg's trying to poach you for 100 rupees. Is that true?
If Mark Zuckerberg is that, sure, dude, not a problem.
But Saksham, look at this perspective, right? In my honest opinion, Soham doesn't suck. He's probably
Yeah.
the most honest thing to happen to hiring in years. The rest of us still pretending the system works. He did exactly what companies do to candidates: multi threaded, ghosted, prioritized leverage, left when a better opportunity came along, took what he could while he could, and smiled through it all. Relax, he only did it to five companies what one company does to 500 candidates a week. Why are you so red? What do you guys think about this, dude? Fair,
I
right?
think okay. I mean, fair to some extent, but what one thing which I definitely will do want to talk about is he's still clearing interviews, right? He's still making through all of these companies, and these are not easy companies to get in, right? So he's darn good at what he's doing. Now, is he doing it the right way? Is he doing it the wrong way? Sure, it's open to debate, right? But the fact that this guy has those certain set of not just soft skills but also technical skills, the right kind of things to write in his resume. Maybe some
Yeah.
of those things you can definitely learn from.
I actually liked this cold email a lot. It was very vulnerable. It seemed very vulnerable. It seemed very transparent. But yeah, I think that's something. And a lot of a lot of folks from India are telling that Soham should just create a course to help people clear interviews. And I'm like, why does everything have to be a fucking course, dude?
Because that sells in India, dude, and people pay for hope. But I
Yeah.
feel this guy, see, as Sakshi mentioned, is definitely talented. It's not very easy to clear these interviews. And also, one of the surprises that I found as a pattern is so many founders came and claimed that I have worked with him. We have also been part of this, but none of them raised specific performance related issues. There are
Yeah.
ethics related issues that are raised. There are time bound related issues that they have been raised, but no one came up and said that he was a fucking bad engineer or he was not able to deliver what he was expecting.
Yeah, but guys, even before we go deeper into this, let's actually play a interview that we did with Soham himself, right?
Yes, please. Presenting exclusively Soham Parekh on the Indian Startup Desktop.
Because it did
Sick,
not accept
Saksham.
our invite.
I think going back to like how it even like started to happen and what the motivations were
Yeah,
would
please.
probably have, obviously I would want to like preface with saying like I'm not proud of what I've done. That's not something that I endorse either. Um, but financial circumstances essentially, like no one really likes to work 140 hours a week, right? But I had to do this.
Our poor
Maybe
man's financial circumstances led him to work at 10 remote companies. Cluely founders have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. Make Soham Parekh CTO. Yes, this needs to happen.
Dude, this is
let's
this is
go.
such a good synergy in the events that have happened over last couple of weeks, right? First, a company comes and says that cheat on everything, then they get funded by A16Z, one of the biggest venture funds in US, to build something that helps people clear interviews and cheat in interviews. And then within like couple of days, we find that there is an engineer who has been cheating companies and working multiple places. Like, what in the world is actually happening?
You can't really write it better than this. Huh? This is like peak scripting.
Yeah, let's look at the larger point that all of us can maybe chime in on. Saksham, why don't you go first? Soham is just another example of why you should build an in-person culture and not a remote-first company.
I think this is one of the most debated topics since COVID happened, right? I have always been in roles wherein you have to show up in person, which is all things business and growth kind of roles. I do understand why a lot of engineers actually debate super hard on this, stating how their productivity actually goes down if they have to come to office, whether it's a commute, whether it's just I don't know not being able to focus and all of that. But after something like this happens, I still feel there has to be a certain discipline that needs to put in place. Sure, you show up twice a week. You don't have to show up all 5 days of the week, but then moonlighting becomes hard, right? How do you show up at twice a week at six different places, right? So I think some of these things, and this is not difficult, right? 2 days, 1 day a week is not something very difficult to do.
I think that's already started. Like Flipkart was one such people like who called a lot of employees back to office, and most of the organs are doing it. But this is also the thing. It depends upon what kind of problem you're solving, where you're solving, what kind of talent you want to attract. Because I know a few of the most smartest engineers, they are okay to compromise on pay, but don't want to get to office. There are a few people who want to stay introverted and not meet a lot of people. So there are all kinds of stuff, and COVID gave that window, an opportunity for them to say and figure out that yeah, I can make money, I can make my survival by staying and not going outside anyway. And I don't think so that's a reversible shift that can be completely enforced, because now you have already done it.
Pavan, why do you sound like Soham Parekh's lawyer, bro?
I think so,
Yeah.
that guy also will make a lot of money out of this.
I don't think you can be transparent and moonlight, right? I think
Yeah, then it's not moonlighting, right? Then it's called consulting.
Yeah.
no, I think where conflict of interest lies, I think it's a little the topic is much different because you can essentially keep sharing trade secrets across. But if you're working at, let's say, a Flipkart and an AI company and something else which is not related, I still think that should be encouraged. That should be fine. But obviously, you shouldn't get paid as much as a full-time employee is getting paid because the number of hours that you're actually that shouldn't even be the case because number of hours don't determine the quality of your output. But
And
uh,
also, it's what you're saying is also like slightly contrary in view, right? Like, I will not at any point be moonlighting with, let's say, a Pine Labs and an Asian Paints. I will still go and find alternate jobs in the same career that I am in or the same industry that I'm operating in, right? So, conflict of interest to that standpoint, in most cases, will always be there because you've built your expertise in a certain domain also, not just a certain skill set to say sales or marketing, etc., but also a certain kind of industry.
Like one message to all founders would be to hire right, and I'm not saying in terms of hiring the right person will not moonlight, but hiring and providing them the right amount of work. You can't allow them to have so much time that they can start thinking that I can do this work also and have three other more jobs. That means you're doing something really wrong in budgeting stuff, in figuring out how much manpower you need, how much resources you need.
Pawan, if your employees are listening to this, you'll receive probably some of their resignation mails on Monday.
No, I feel they are also in line with that. Okay, if I have to, this much task needs to be done. I don't want a time bound method. I will figure out how this is the best way to be done there. It's not like we are assigning time and saying that you have to complete this task in 5 days only. If he's smart enough,
Yeah,
if he's figuring out to do it in one day, I can't ask him to do it in 5 days, right? It's
yeah,
his
yeah.
capability, it's its ability, and we should respect that. And it needs to be rewarded also.
Yeah, true. But anyway, folks, this is all our takes on the entire Soham Parekh saga. In case you folks have any thoughts, please drop it in the comments. But yeah, that's it from this week's edition of the Indian Startup Desktop. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel below. See you guys next week. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Okay, let's move on to the story of the week. Soham Befa. Sorry, let me say that again. How do we say it again?
Soham
Bewafa.
Bewafa.
Bewafa.